items that you'll need for this project. There were some changes along the way, so I'll list all the details in the description box below. So I measured out the width that I wanted my stable to be. However, I ended up spacing out my boards a little bit more and only using 8 fencing boards instead of the 10. Here I'm measuring from the bottom of the fencing board to the height where I want my stable to stop. I'm using my speed square to help me make sure that the lines are straight. Now I'm using 4 boards for each side of the stable and cutting these boards in a diagonal slant. Again, I'm using my speed square to help me draw out the lines so that they'll be straight. I'll show you a little bit later where I went wrong with this. It's the first time I'm using it. So here's where I was going wrong with this speed square. I mean, I was real excited about the possibilities and the function of this speed square, but I started off drawing the diagonal slant using one part of the speed square for one board. And then I got the bright idea that I would use a different part of the speed square when I transferred it to the next board, which actually resulted in a higher or a steeper slant than what I was trying to achieve. And this simple mistake made an impact on how I had to finish the project. I had to make some changes, and I'll share those changes with you a little later. So once I drew all of my lines for my cuts, then I did all of the cuts at the same time, starting off with my 0-degree cuts, then my left 45-degree cuts, and my right, and so on. Okay, so I'm basically working with 4 panels. This is my base back panel. I laid my support boards on top and bottom and stapled them in place. I did the same thing with the roof panel, and I used the same amount of boards for my roof panel as I did for my back bottom panel. And yes, that is a large gap between a couple of those boards, and it's because I had to spread it out in order to work with what I had, or I wouldn't be able to finish this project on the same night. So now it's time to attach my support boards for my side panels the same way that I did for my roof and for my bottom back board or back panel. And if you didn't notice, I'm actually kind of enjoying working with my nail gun. This is the first time that I used it, and so it was actually kind of fun learning how to use it. So now that my connecting boards are attached, I'm going to add the brackets so that I can connect my roof with my bottom base. I ended up changing out these brackets a little bit later and switching them out, replacing them with some fence hinges instead, and I'll show you the change on that. I didn't really like the fit of the brackets, and the fence hinges gave me some more flexibility. So here I've left the silver bracket in place basically so you can see which one I removed, and then I replaced it with this black fence hinge. Now I'm ready to connect all 4 panels. This is the back base panel. I'm going to attach my fence hinges so that they can connect to the side panels. At this point, I'm getting very excited about my project. I can see the end in sight, even though there's a hiccup down the road that I don't see, but it all works out in the end. Some of the results still had me excited, so not completely down about it. But the original design did not work out for me, so I have to come up with a different solution to try to remedy that problem. And so the original design is supposed to, I think, kind of lean on. Yeah, you're supposed to kind of lean like that, but because of the way I cut these, that didn't work out. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But basically what I'm going to do for now is go on the inside here, and it's kind of hard to film it, but I'll show you afterwards. I'm going to place this on the inside at a slant so that this roof can lean on the inside of this at a slant, and I'll nail this to the boards. See what I was talking about in terms of the brackets not being a good fit. It worked out for the original designer, but for mine it seemed to be make more sense to use these hinges. It had a better collapse, and I could attach it to the base a lot easier. Plus it gives me this flexibility. Okay, now I'll be honest. I was happy that my roof rested well on the inside of these side panels, but what I do not like are those looks like little wings coming off of a superhero helmet. That didn't work for me. So what I did was went out and bought a cheap saw and tried to saw it down and make it look not as, so it wouldn't stand out as much. So using that cheap saw turned out to be a terrible experience. I ended up cutting myself in the process, and my stable looks like it has a bad haircut. I bought this reciprocating saw. I haven't used it yet, but I'm going to trim it off a little bit later and hopefully have a cleaner look. Overall, I must say that I am pleased with the project. Sure, I'll clean it up a little bit maybe later, but as for this Christmas season, it'll work just fine.
Good tidings for Christmas and a happy